Hello everybody. My flight got delayed, and so I have a night in a hotel room, which gives me a little extra time to myself. So I'm going to use the privacy and the time to tell you, give you a summary of where I've been and what's happened over the past about 18 months that I've been in Papua New Guinea. The way I got here is I reached out to a group called GoCore. They help to do mission placements and fundraising for people, mostly people just out of college. And eventually, they showed me they had a recruitment request from YWAM, Youth with a Mission, and they were looking for a mechanical engineer on board the YWAM Liberty, one of their ships, which was going to be turned into a hospital ship and had been used in the past for to help do medical work. Their video called "What Would You Take to a Deserted Island, to an Isolated Island," confirmed for me that I wanted to join and be a part of that. There was a moment where a man had finished cataract surgeries and had bandages over his eyes. They removed the bandages and he got to see again. You can see him recovering his sight for the first, possibly for the first time in years. He was a very old man. So I went to the training. YWAM requires 3 months of, requires you to do a DTS, a discipleship training school, before you do any long-term mission placements with them. So I went to Kona, Hawaii, and did 3 months of their school called Discipleship Training School, which was interesting, more general, I think, more less structured than I was expecting, and fortunately the outreach that I did that was part of that school was in Papua New Guinea, which is where I initially had signed on to join. And I served in Madang for 4 months. Yes, about 4 months. The first 2 were very fast-paced. They were part of the DTS. And at the end of those 2 months, we had a week up in the highlands in a place called Jiwaka. And from there, I stayed on as staff in the Madang base. So that was very interesting. I got to do some basic maintenance stuff on the base and tutored some of the children of longtime staff there. And I would occasionally go out on the outreaches to the villages, help with the medical teams, and do a little bit of help with research and setup. How would you say that? And like finding out about villages to help out with the Bible translation project that's going on. After 4 months in August of last year, my grandmother passed away, and so I returned to the States for the funeral, and that was a very good time. It was good to see my family again, and there's lots of support around us, and we appreciate our church, and it's good. I do, obviously still miss her, but it was very good to have a proper, a real funeral. That was a big blessing, that I could come back for that. And whenever I returned, the only international airport is in Port Moresby, which is where the ship is located. and so I stopped in Port Moresby and stayed on with the ship. So I stayed there for, ended up being a year and 2 months. I'll be leaving tomorrow. So it was a long time, yeah. And now it's very unusual for somebody to be in my position. It's very unusual for somebody to be a part of a YWAM base and to do so little outreach, or to be so separated from the mission of the base. Now, ordinarily, even if you do volunteer work, like in Kona, there were people who were snowbirds. They were a bit older. They would come and they'd work for 3 months on the Kona base, and they had never done their DTS, so they could do 3 months of volunteer work. But even for them, their connection to the mission is much more immediate, because they're working on a base which is active, where people are coming through for school, where there are people that are leaving, that are doing outreach into the town of Kona. And so it is unusual for me to be a staff on the YWAM base and to have seen so little action, so to speak, so little missionary work. And that's part of the reason why it was quite challenging. It was for several months I was doing maintenance. That was good. I cleaned out rust, and we had an incident with the toilets, which was with the septic system, which was that was a mess. That was pretty rough. I don't know if you guys. I think I actually have a B-reel. I'm gonna find it with me. Like, I was black water had totally soaked through my my overalls. It was foul, man. It was gross. But it was good. Made a lot of progress. We've got good stuff that's happening even now on the ship, which is really encouraging. But after I was on maintenance for a little while, it came around to Christmas time, and I headed home for a couple weeks. And when I came back, still being on the engineering crew, I was not. They had so few people that we were on. Everybody was doing a day shift for 4 hours and a night shift for 4 hours. Now you think, all right, 2 4-hour chunks. That means you got what, another 16 hours of the day off, 2 8-hour chunks, in theory at any rate. But it didn't, though I had that, technically I had that time off, it was, you had to, the meals were still served at regular times. So, and you had to shower, before you went, or I wanted to shower before I went to bed, because I was, it was a very sweaty work. You don't just go to bed, and pool your own sweat. So that back and forth was so stressful to me. I said, hey, listen, I'll do the night watch. And so I did. I just did night watch for like 3 months. It was like, it's like 11 hours. So kind of a long work day, but because I didn't have that much to do, I pumped gasoline into the generators 3 times during a night. I checked gauges, I did some cleaning, and I just stayed alert and available. There was one instance where the deck crew guy who was on watch spotted a man slowly swimming towards the ship. I go over there, and he's got like this little homemade canoe, not much bigger than a bucket, out of roofing tin, very slowly swimming towards the ship. So I shine the light down on him and say, "Hey, brother, you all right? Do you need help?" It's like, he just slowly turns around, swims in the other direction. I was like, yeah, he's probably thought he could get on board, throw some stuff into his little canoe and take it off, but he got spotted, just turned around and went away.